Now, in a sweeping overhaul of the country's military leadership, Nigerian President Tinubu has appointed new service chiefs as part of efforts to strengthen national security.
Two of Africa's biggest armies, one rooted in West Africa, one guarding the eastern gateway of the continent, both battle-tested, both modernizing, both flying new jets and helicopters. But here's the question that keeps coming up. Could Nigeria actually invade Kenya in 2026 and do it successfully? On paper, Nigeria looks dominant. Bigger manpower pool, larger inventories, broader regional influence. But war is not fought on spreadsheets. And once you leave the paper and step onto the map, the entire equation changes. In reality, a Nigerian invasion of Kenya would not just be difficult. It would be a logistical nightmare, a diplomatic disaster, and a military gamble, with almost no path to long-term success unless massive outside powers stepped in. Let's break this down carefully. No hype, no fantasy. Just the hard realities of modern warfare, and why distance, logistics, and politics quietly kill invasions long before the first shots are fired. Start with the raw snapshot. Nigeria is one of Africa's largest military powers by sheer size. Its armed forces benefit from a massive population base, a large standing army, and a growing air arm. Conventional military rankings consistently place Nigeria well above Kenya when measuring manpower, armored vehicles, and aircraft. That alone is enough to fuel headlines and speculation. Kenya, by contrast, is smaller on paper. Fewer troops, less heavy equipment, lower rankings in conventional force size. But Kenya's reputation in East Africa is not built on numbers. It's built on professionalism, operational discipline, and hard-earned combat experience. And that difference matters more than most people realize. Because raw power only matters if you can move it, sustain it, and protect it. Now look at the map. Abuja to Nairobi is roughly 3,500 kilometers by air. By land, it stretches beyond 5,000 kilometers. That is not a border dispute. That is an expedition across half a continent. To put that into military terms, that distance alone introduces challenges that even global superpowers struggle to manage. Every kilometer adds friction. Every border adds uncertainty. Every supply convoy becomes a vulnerability. To move an invasion force, you don't just need soldiers. You need tanks, artillery, fuel trucks, ammunition carriers, maintenance crews, medics, engineers, communications units, and command infrastructure. And all of it has to move together. Lose fuel, the tanks stop. Lose spare parts, aircraft get grounded. Lose supply security, the entire force starts bleeding strength without ever meeting the enemy. Distance is not just geography, distance is attrition. Now consider the routes. Any overland push from Nigeria to Kenya must pass through multiple sovereign states: Niger, Chad, Sudan, or alternatively Cameroon and Central African Republic. Each one is a political gatekeeper. Each one can deny access, delay movement, restrict airspace, or quietly sabotage logistics. No modern invasion survives without transit cooperation, and that cooperation would evaporate the moment an unprovoked invasion became clear. So what about airlift and sea power? This is where fantasy often replaces reality. Nigeria has been modernizing its air force. New jets, new helicopters, improved surveillance and strike capabilities. These upgrades are real, and they matter. They increase Nigeria's regional reach and deterrence power. But they do not transform Nigeria into a global expeditionary force. Strategic airlift is the real currency of long-range war. Heavy transports, aerial refueling tankers, forward operating bases, maintenance hubs, secure air corridors. Without these, air assaults collapse under their own weight. Tactical aircraft can strike targets. They cannot feed, fuel, and rotate an invasion force operating thousands of kilometers from home. And sea power faces the same brutal math. To reach Kenya's coast, any naval force must travel through exposed sea lanes into one of the world's most heavily monitored maritime regions. Kenya's main ports are not undefended. They sit under the watch of coastal patrols, air defenses, and international naval traffic. Any attempt to seize a port immediately creates a single glaring vulnerability, a supply line that must remain open every hour of every day just to keep the invasion alive. Now look at the defender. Kenya's military has spent years in real combat environments, counterinsurgency operations, peacekeeping missions, urban warfare, border security. This experience shapes command decisions, unit cohesion, and battlefield judgment in ways raw numbers cannot. Kenya has also invested steadily in helicopters, armored vehicles, and rapid response forces designed specifically to protect airfields, ports, and interior lines. This matters because defenders operate on shorter supply lines. They know the terrain, they control infrastructure, they can concentrate forces faster, and they can turn every road, every port, and every airfield into a pressure point against an attacker. And then there's diplomacy, the silent battlefield. An invasion across the African continent would trigger immediate political shockwaves. Regional organizations would condemn it, international bodies would respond, airspace would close, ports would deny access, financial pressure would mount, trade routes would tighten, sanctions would follow. Even countries that stayed neutral would hesitate to assist an aggressor facing global scrutiny. Modern war is not fought in isolation. It is fought under cameras, treaties, markets, and alliances. And that environment overwhelmingly favors defense over distant aggression. Even if Nigeria achieved early tactical success, even if troops landed, airfields were seized, or ports were contested, the next question would be fatal: can it be sustained? Invasions fail not when soldiers lose courage, but when logistics break. Fuel shortages, ammunition delays, medical evacuation bottlenecks, equipment failures without spare parts, communication breakdowns. Every one of these problems grows exponentially with distance, and once supply lines are stretched thin, defenders don't need to win battles. They just need to wait. Nigeria's military is powerful, but it is also heavily engaged at home. Internal security challenges demand manpower, air support, and funding. Launching and sustaining a massive expeditionary campaign would come at a severe opportunity cost, weakening domestic security while draining national resources. Now, to be clear, let's separate fact from judgment. It is factual that Nigeria ranks higher in conventional military metrics. It is factual that Nigeria is acquiring new aircraft and helicopters through the mid-2020s. It is factual that Kenya is modernizing its forces and strengthening defensive capabilities. It is factual that the distance between Abuja and Nairobi creates a major operational barrier. The judgment is this: given those facts, a successful Nigerian invasion of Kenya in 2026 is extraordinarily unlikely without massive external support and a radical shift in regional politics. That assessment is not ideology. It is logistics, geography, and history speaking in unison. The most realistic threat scenarios are not full-scale invasions. They are cyber operations, diplomatic crises, proxy conflicts, economic pressure, or limited strikes. Africa's recent security history is dominated by internal conflicts and regional stabilization missions, not continent-spanning invasions. So where does this leave us? On paper, Nigeria is larger. On the map, Kenya is safer. And in the real world, where logistics, law, and alliances decide outcomes, defense holds the advantage. Military power is not just about how much force you can generate. It's about how far you can project it, how long you can sustain it, and how many enemies you create along the way. Nigeria versus Kenya sounds dramatic. But once you strip away the headlines and run the numbers through reality, the conclusion is clear. This is not a story of easy conquest, it is a story of limits, and of why modern warfare punishes ambition that outruns logistics. If you want the next layer, invasion routes, choke points, timelines, and where exactly such a campaign would collapse, that's a deeper dive we can take next.